everybody, my name is Zach REDRUP and this is the It's Not a Phase podcast. On this episode I have a chat with Matt Goodyear, who's a promoter based in the south of England and owns his own promotions and booking agency called Boneyard Promotions, and he's also the founder of Burn It Down Festival, an annual, now 2-day festival which this year has headline slots from Trash Boat and Death of Anna. We talk about the difference between a promoter and a booking agent, how he got into his line of work, when and how Burn It Down Festival began, future plans for the festival, and loads more. Before we get started, let's cover off the boring stuff. If you enjoy this episode and would like to support the podcast, please consider subscribing, rating, and leaving a review wherever you're listening to this. We also have a Patreon, where everyone gets access to each episode a week earlier than everyone else, and a merch store too. You can also follow and reach out to me on social media. All of the links can be found at itsnotaphase.co.uk. That's itsnotaphase.co.uk. And with all of that out of the way, let's jump right into this week's episode of It's Not a Phase. What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining me on this episode of It's Not a Phase, where I'm joined by Matt Goodyear of Boneyard Promotions and Burn It Down Festival. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks, mate. Not too bad. So would you say you're more of a booking agent or a promoter, or are you kind of a bit of a both?
So I mainly do all the promoting, and then Karam is another part of Boneyard, and he focuses on booking tours, basically a booking agent for our roster. So we kind of have different roles in the company. But yeah, mainly a promoter.
What would you say, for people who don't know that are listening, what's the difference between a booking agent and a promoter?
So a promoter would put on the event, so they will take tours in their local area or region, book the venue, do all the marketing for the shows, whereas a booking agent looks after a specific band and offers them to promoters to host in their area. So
Boneyard Promotions, is that something that you set up?
Yeah, I started it on my own back in 2015. I think it was our first show. And then Karam joined a couple of years later. And then we've just got a new person called Sophie doing some London shows now. So it's the three of us. And then we've got a couple of other people involved that help out behind the scenes. So slowly growing. And then we do it down. And then we do little bits on the side as well.
Cool. So in the beginning, it was just you then, I suppose?
It was just me, yeah.
Yeah.
And then it grew and it got a bit big from just me. So got some other people involved to help out.
So what was the stepping stone, I guess, into you getting into concert promotion and becoming a promoter?
So I started working in a local bar that had like the classic local bar music, like cover bands and stuff like that. And then they had an event called Parrot Fest, which is like an all-day sort of festival thing. And then I worked that, and then I kind of got involved setting up that event, just helping out the guy who was running it. And then from there, it's like I really liked it, like the event and how it went and stuff. And then I just started asking questions to the guy who ran it. And then I kind of, from there, just helped him out with more stuff, and then decided to do more original music and music I liked in the local area. And then it kind of grew from there. I think my first show was Acres, and then I did Shields, and then I can't remember the rest. Yeah, bringing a couple metal bands down to Torquay was a bit surprising for some people, I think. But yeah, it's worked out all right.
Yeah, I guess because typically, like, Torquay is kind of out of the way in terms of the typical UK touring circuit, isn't it, really?
Yeah, definitely. That's what we struggle with quite a lot, really. But we expanded from Torquay to Exeter, Plymouth, Falmouth, and sometimes we do Bristol now. So yeah, we started off in Torquay and then expanded out of that. But yeah, it was hard at the beginning doing that. But there was like a scene in Torquay like 10 years before I started there, or maybe a bit less time. And they had a few other like rock bars, and they had like music in there. Like I think Don Broco played Newton Abbott, which is like down the road, like in the town hall or something like that.
Okay.
They were big. So there was a bit of a scene before I was there. Then it kind of died out. And then it was just like the cover bands and small town music stuff. And then that's when I wanted to do more original stuff again.
So how would you say kind of promotion, like being a promoter, has kind of changed since you started? Because, there's, flyering and stuff like that, but then you've got like digital promotion and
Yeah, it's way more digital stuff now. Like I remember when I first started getting so many posters printed and flyers printed, and like doing quite a lot of flyering and going to shops and asking them to put posters up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like more like boots on the ground or whatever you want to call it. But whereas now I mainly sit behind a computer screen running Facebook ads and Instagram and stuff like that. So
yeah.
It's quite different now, but yeah, I'm not too sure which one I enjoy more now, to be honest.
Nowadays, you've got to like kind of have to know your shit in terms of, you know, social marketing and analytics and stuff like that, I suppose.
Yeah, and it changes all the time. Like literally, like I think Ads Manager updated the other day or something, and now it's like quite new again. So it's like it's quite interesting because it keeps you on your toes and stuff, like learning new stuff. But it's quite annoying because you kind of get into the groove of stuff. Like you get used to running ads and stuff like that, and then they slightly change stuff or like the rules and stuff like that.
Yeah. Or they make a change to like the algorithm, so it's kind of like, okay, now I've got to do something different.
Yeah, like
more people.
Small things like how Facebook events used to be really big back in the day, and now they're kind of dead. We don't really promote them too often now. And just like I remember first doing like Facebook ads, and it was like a sliding scale. You used to just like pick how much you want to spend, and it will tell you who you're targeting and stuff like that. And now it's more in depth, and you've got to like watch the ads and make sure they're targeting the right people and stuff. Too many numbers for me, to be honest. But
so is that kind of where all the marketing budget goes nowadays, or did you still do the flyers and posters?
We still do the flyers and posters. Like for stuff like Burn It Down, it's very online heavy. I think like 90% of our budget's online now. Yeah, I think we do really small physical marketing nowadays. Stuff like when we do stuff in Falmouth, we do a bit more printing stuff because there's a bit more student town that. So we go and post the uni and stuff like that. But yeah, it's probably like 90% budget goes to online spend now.
And what would you kind of say someone's kind of interested in pursuing a career as a promoter or a booking agent, kind of like following the path that you've taken in today's world? What would you kind of suggest are the steps they take to kind of like dip their toes in that?
Be vocal and like maybe talk to a promoter you know or know of, see if they need help or something like that. So when I first started, there wasn't very many promoters around my area. So it was very like I see something online in a different area and I try to replicate that, but then I didn't know how to do it sort of thing. So I made a lot of mistakes and errors, whereas like if you had a local promoter that could help you through stuff or just to chat to and get some advice, that's what I would recommend, because then it saves a lot of silly errors, stuff like that. That's what I would recommend, yeah. I know it's clicky sometimes, but I think if you find the right people, they will help you out.
Well, they do say like the best path to success is through failure, because that's how you kind of learn what isn't the right thing to do and what to do next time.
There's even stuff like how you talk to people. I've seen like old emails what I used to send out to agents and stuff like that, and it's just a little bit embarrassing, to be honest. But like nowadays it's a bit straight to the point, not very. I think it's because when I first started, I was more of a fan of like bands and stuff like that, so I was a bit excited on the emails. Not like I'm not excited nowadays, but it's very more like
professional.
Yeah. But yeah, if you had someone who you knew was in the music scene or local scene or something like that, if you chat to them, they'll probably help you how to like contact agents, even like how to set up a show sort of thing. Because some people just think you message bands online and they just come to you. There's a bit more that goes into it sometimes, depending on what level you're at, obviously. But yeah. So
what's kind of like, if you're putting on like your first show, what's kind of like the first step into getting that? Do you need to get bands first? Do you need to book the venue? Do you need to have like a budget set? How does it kind of start?
I would recommend a budget. Right? You have to. Now looking back at it, I didn't have a budget, and I really wish I did have a budget. But I would say go for a venue first, and then try to find a band around that date. Or it's kind of hard because sometimes you get contacted by a booking agent who have a set days for a band, like a tour dates and stuff like that, and that's where you have to find a venue. Because if you have a venue on a date but the artist is not available, you have a show. But then on the other way, if you've got an artist that wants to play a date and you don't have a venue, it's the same thing. But I would make sure you have a venue, and then make sure that what they're providing and you know what they're providing. I remember when I did my first show and I didn't even know I had to supply a PA. So like I had to run around like when the band arrived. And I was I thought, because obviously I was like in that cover band sort of environment.
Yeah.
They put all their own equipment. So I thought that's what happens to like all music. And I remember Abe had enough about like the PA and stuff. So I had to get a local guy to bring a PA like 2 hours before the show. Didn't have a sound engineer, so they had to do their own sound. I think they must have thought I don't know what they must have thought, but bless them, they did the gig still. And then they played Burn It Down like 3 years ago, something like that. So it was nice to have him back where it's a bit more of a professional environment than just here's the stage with no PA.
Well, you mentioned Burn It Down. So that started in 2018 that started? That was the first one, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
With, was it Mallory Knox were headlining, weren't they?
Yeah, that was the first year. Mallory Knox, Malevolence, Rome, Dream State, Arcane Roots. Pretty good lineup, actually. Yeah, that was the first year. That again was a new learning curve because I thought I was quite comfortable as a promoter then, doing local shows and stuff like that. And then I had no idea how a festival ran, but I just kind of was naive to it. Thought like it's exactly the same, but yeah, a lot more elements in a festival. But again, I kind of knew that I had to ask people for help and stuff like that. So I contacted a few people I knew that ran festivals and asked them for help and stuff, and then learn on the job basically. Like from first year to where we are now, there's a huge difference.
So what are kind of the differences, would you say, between setting up and managing a festival, even back then, because it was a one-day festival then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because I guess some people just see it as kind of like a longer gig.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It was it's just a longer. I've done all-day gigs before, sort of thing. It'd be the same sort of thing, but we've got 3 venues. I think it was like 30 bands or something like that. But the difference is like between a normal show is like you only got like a headliner to worry about and like the supports and stuff. So it's only like 3 bands. But then when you got 30 bands coming to a festival, they all expect different things and like, yeah, and then people's arrival times because you got people arriving to load in while the festival's going ahead.
Yeah.
It's just chaos. And I think there's only 3 or 4 of us working that day for 30 bands and 4 free stages and stuff like that. It was, yeah.
So the chaos, basically.
Like staff members and production crew and all that lot now. So it's a lot easier. Instead of running around every year, I get to walk around and enjoy the festival now, which is quite good.
And I guess you've also got to consider 30 bands having these like rider requests as well.
Yeah, and back then I took everything like the agent said as like, I don't know what the word is, but like when they send you like the rider, I made sure I got every single item sort of thing. Whereas now I'm kind of a bit more like, I'll get you this, but like we provide this kind of stuff and meet everyone in the middle sort of thing. Because some agents kind of try to ask for too much out of a small...
Take the piss a bit.
Yeah. But it's like stuff like tech riders and stuff like that. I thought I remember getting like, I can't remember, or maybe it was Mallory Knox or something, but they were asking for like 8 monitors on their tech spec. And we only had like a 5x5 stage or something. So I was there like, how is this going to work? Like 8 monitors on this tiny stage. But then all you got to do is talk to the tour manager and say what you've got and what you're providing. And then they kind of say if it's okay or not. But they learned that their tech specs are mainly for like big festivals. So like if they play Reading and Leeds or something, that's what they'll send. They won't change their tech spec for every single show. So that's you kind of got to work and ask questions about it.
So you've got to kind of like scale it down for them based on your stage that you're putting them on.
Yeah, so like we do like 5 monitors on our main stage now, but like some bands ask for like 12, but then I'll be like, well, I can't do 12 because the stage is too small, this room is this big sort of thing. And they understand it and they're happy with it. It's just obviously if you're a new promoter and you get that tech spec, they're like, oh, I need to provide this sort of stuff. But yeah, that's just growing on and learning on the job, really.
Well, I don't expect you to name any bands or whatever, but what's kind of the most ridiculous thing you've been asked for on a rider?
I actually had a recent one that just asked for like a specific amount of pickled eggs. It wasn't like, it wasn't just like, oh, pickled eggs. It was like 3 pickled eggs. I was like, that's such a specific amount. Like there was like, I think there was like 5 band members and like crew and stuff like that.
Right.
They just asked for 3 eggs. I thought it was very strange. I think we ended up getting them loads of pickled eggs because I couldn't find anywhere that just did 3 pickled eggs. I think jar of them, something like that.
Unless you got a jar and just picked 3 out.
Yeah, that's what
Another jar.
I was there, like, I don't even know. I think we've been pretty lucky, really. We haven't had any crazy rider requests. I think that was it's more like funny stuff, like free pickled eggs. Got asked for a local football shirt once.
Okay.
I had to go buy a local football shirt.
I mean, it's a bit left field, but it's not crazy.
Yeah, I think that was mainly like for cities, because I talked to the artist and I was like, "You sure you want a Torquay United T-shirt?" I don't think anybody wants that, to be honest. They didn't want it in the end, to be fair. Yeah, no crazy rider requests. I haven't got any funny stories, unfortunately.
Yet. There's still time, yeah.
I haven't had everyone's for this year, so...
Still time. So when did the idea of Burn It Down come together?
It's probably around 2017-ish. So I've been promoting for 2 years. Everything was going okay, I guess. And I kind of just wanted to do something bigger, and especially like this area down in Devon and Cornwall. It's not that much that happens. I was finding myself, if I wanted to go to bigger gigs, that I would have to drive all the way to Bristol or further. So I kind of wanted to bring something down here that was a bit closer for everyone here, and to bring people from Bristol onwards down to Torquay. And yeah, I think that's where it kind of started. Just getting tired of driving to all the gigs, and then I just thought I'll put my own on.
Bring the gigs here.
Exactly, nice and easy.
And what about the name Burn It Down? Why Burn It Down Festival?
I think it was more like being angry. How long was that ago? Like 4 or 5 years ago. So I was in my early 20s then. So I was thinking I was a bit more angrier then. And I was a bit more like being in the local area for a certain time, just finding out how people don't want to support local artists or local promoters and stuff like that. Mainly like council and other people in the local area who don't understand like the live music industry, and it's kind of a thing like burn down the establishment sort of road, I think. And I was a bit of a wrestling fan then, so it was like Seth Rollins' entrance music was like Burn It Down or something. I think I was watching wrestling or something, and that came on, and I was there like, that's it. I think there was a couple of weirder names at the time. It was around Burn something, but I don't think it was Burn It Down. It was like Burn Out, but I think there was another festival called Burn Out at the time. I think we came up with some weird names.
But basically just fire burn related.
Yeah. And then I was watching wrestling, and I think that the theme song started, and I was like, that's a good name. And I think I put it in the group chat, and everyone was like, yeah, let's do that. I was like, easy.
So, I guess people who don't really have any experience in booking or promoting or anything like that would just assume when you're arranging a gig or a festival, it's you've got the venue, you've got the bands and the venue staff, and then that's it. But I don't think people kind of consider, stuff like security and promoting it online and stuff like that. What kind of are the requirements that you kind of have to consider when hosting a festival or a gig that people might not typically expect?
Customer journey sort of thing is something big for me. That's more what we're focusing on now. When we first set up, it was more getting the tickets sold and making a name for ourselves sort of thing. So when we first started, it was concentrating on getting the right bands and make sure we're marketing correctly. And now we're at that kind of level when we know that we're going to sell a certain amount of tickets every year. We're kind of focusing on customer journey, and there'd be stuff like ordering inflatables for the crowd and stuff like that. Just really small details that you wouldn't think like someone has to do that job, sorting out the merch, like what happens in the green room, like, because we're an indoor festival, so it's a bit easier than an outdoor one, but we've got a green room, but there's empty, so we have to get like sofas in and like an Xbox or something like that to make sure the bands are happy when they are here all day, that they're not just sat in a cold, sad room. And then it's just like how the customers then get around the site, sponsorships, loads of stuff. Too many things to even think about. But yeah, it's just got to think about every small detail. But it's a bit easier now because I've got a team of people that I kind of like can ask to do stuff, like the bulk of it, and then I can just focus on the little things that I want to be done at the festival. It's like I said earlier, we got like a production crew that worry about like all the stage stuff and all the techie bits, and then I got the green room team that will focus setting that stuff up. So I can just, if I want something extra, I can think of that, and then I know who to talk to, and then they can sort it out, sort of thing. Even small things like festival passes for the crew, and artists. I think last year, the first year, we were like printing them out the night before and cutting them up on a bit of paper, whereas now we get like all the proper passes. So it's just small things that you don't really think about when you
Well, I guess as the years go on, you obviously, as a festival happens, you notice things that maybe you didn't do that time, that didn't go quite right. And then the following year, you know that, right, okay, this year we've got to make sure that that isn't going to be a problem.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why you want to talk to people like who go to your festival and also work it. So asking staff or bands how they felt about how they feel when they were here and stuff like that. Because any small detail that goes wrong at a festival or a show could affect you for like going forward sort of thing. If someone's had a bad time at your festival, they're unlikely to come back, and they're like, especially nowadays when you've got Twitter and stuff like that, it could easily people jumping on the bandwagon on Twitter about something. Just gotta make sure everyone's happy, which is a bit stressful sometimes, but you can't make everyone happy. But
that's the nature of the beast, isn't it?
Exactly.
So at what point did you feel like the festival was ready to expand into obviously being a 2-day event, and what was kind of like the reason that you went to do that and took that plunge?
So we went to a weekend. I think we only went to a weekend last year after COVID. So obviously COVID times was terrible for everyone. And the original plan was to go to a weekend in 2021. But obviously without the year before's money and stuff like that, we couldn't really justify funding it. But I think we just went for it. I think we were quite lucky because most of the fans that bought tickets for 2020 rolled over their tickets. So we did have a pot of money to sort of organise that. And then we gave everyone who bought a ticket and held onto their ticket free entry to the second day, for a thank you for supporting the festival. Because obviously over COVID, people needed money and stuff like that. Everyone wasn't working. So yeah, it just felt nice that people actually cared about the festival, because sometimes you feel like you're the only one who cares about the festival. But yeah, just the support we got online and financially was great. And then we wanted to give something back to the fans, so we just kind of went for it. And then it felt all right. So, and then we're doing it now. So
I guess it's kind of humbling that they did that, because like you say, during COVID, there was so many other things they could have spent their money on, including any other festivals, because it's like there's plenty of festivals out there. Yeah,
it was crazy. But I think that the whole industry, the whole community sort of thing kind of supported each other, because I know quite a lot of festivals that was supported, like 2000 Trees, they had that massive crowdfunding from the fans and stuff. And I think quite a lot of people rolled their tickets over for most events, which is obviously helps out people who run the shows and stuff like that, because you've got to pay bands deposits, so that helps the bands out who haven't got work for a year or so, and crew. So all that money just helped everyone survive, I think, basically, or have like a bit of guarantee that you're going to be all right, sort of thing.
So when it comes to planning a multi-day event like Burn It Down, when does the planning actually begin? When do you start putting into motion the next one?
It's about 12 months. So I've started booking stuff now for next year. So normally, now because we've got the venues and how the festival runs pretty down now, it's mainly booking it and talking budgets and stuff like that. So normally we get a rough idea before the festival happens the year before. So this year we start planning next year now.
Right.
But we kind of go full motion after the festival, because we normally have a sit down, see what went wrong or what could do better, sort of thing. And then we put more of a plan together after the festival. But I start putting a rough idea who I want and stuff like that now-ish. So like from August kind of thing. But it's kind of hard because like all year round, I kind of have thoughts in my ideas in my head, sort of thing. And then I make sure I write them down, and then I start working on it around August. But yeah, it's quite a long time, to be fair.
Yeah, it is.
Small 2-day festival.
So how do you kind of gauge who you're going to book? I mean, do you kind of go off who you know is like putting some new music out around the following year, or are you getting contacted by agents that are saying, hey, we'd love to have X, Y, and Z?
It's a bit of a mixture sort of thing. Like I do, like there's some guilty pleasures that I just book because I want to book them, not because I don't care if anyone likes them or not. Like mainly people do like them, but it's a bit more of a selfish booking. But then you get some agents that we've worked with for a few years that say, hey, I've just picked up this band, I think they're going to do really well, sort of thing. and if we like them, we book them. That happened with Nova Twins. I didn't really know who they were at the time, and then the agent contacted us saying this band's going to be big. And I was like, yeah, everyone says that. And then just went for it, and then, they're huge now. So I don't know, it's kind of hard. You kind of gamble with, like, who's going to be big with, like, in a year's time sort of thing. Like, we book, like, the bigger bands now, like the headliners and stuff like that, like, round about this time. And then we purposely leave some slots later in the year, around December, when we got a bit of more of a idea what bands are doing for the rest of the year, and then kind of go from there. But it is hard for smaller festivals because we don't have the budget to book big bands, and some other festivals put exclusivity clauses on so that they can't play any other festivals in the year. So even if we got an idea who we want to book, we can't book them because they've got other things going on, or we can't afford them. One of those things. Or you book someone in that you want and then they cancel, or they've got something else comes up. Yeah, so kind of a lot of thought goes into it, but then some stuff goes wrong, and then you end up with bands that you didn't think you would have, and it works out well. But like this year, we had a completely different, well, not completely different, but we had quite a different lineup at the beginning of the year. So we planned out this year, and then we will then announce quite a lot of bands in February, but I think like 7 of them couldn't do it anymore. They weren't bands anymore and stuff like that.
Right.
So we had to change our whole lineup sort of thing. So
I suppose a bit of a spanner in the works.
Yeah, I mean, you do kind of have to prepare for that kind of stuff. I've always got like a short list of what bands to approach if so-and-so pulls out, stuff like that. And then all kind of works out weirdly. I don't know why. Somehow it works out. But yeah, you got to kind of gauge who's doing well and stuff like that. But then there's also, it's kind of good. Like I like how we do the festival, not trying to blow my own trumpet, but like how we got like different layers to the festival. Like we got the up and coming bands, local bands, and then we got like the industry, like they're doing well nationally sort of thing. And then we kind of get a couple of big names in that everyone knows. So that's what I kind of like about the festival, is not just all bands that everyone's heard of. Stuff. We've got like a nice little crowd that likes to check new bands out and stuff like that. So it's quite nice.
Do other festival lineups kind of also gauge where you go in terms of not only, you know some bands on there that maybe you want to have on Burn It Down, but also maybe if there's a band that's playing almost every other festival and you kind of want to have a bit of exclusivity, I guess, and not have the same thing as other festivals?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the difficult bit, because I know I think it was like Mallory Knox or something like that. Our first year, I think they were doing like pretty much every festival that year. And we booked them, and it was not like that it wasn't just as exciting as like when we get someone like I think when we had Basement in 2019, I think they were only doing Reading and Leeds that year or something like that. So it was a bit more exciting for us and the fans that we just have someone that doesn't do every other gig. But yeah, I always I do check out other people's lineups and stuff like that and kind of see. It's just nice to see what other people are seeing, because obviously I can't check out every band that gets sent or who are doing anything. So it's nice to see what other festivals are doing, not just the big ones, even just like the independent ones like us, like even the one-dayers and stuff like that, checking out who people are booking and stuff like that. And yeah, see if they fit. And yeah.
Do you ever have to do, like if a manager or an agent contacts you, and don't they sometimes do kind of bundles? So they say, oh, you can have this bigger band, but if you take this emerging band that we're working with.
I mean, when I was first started, I thought like if you book the smaller bands on their roster, and maybe one day they'll give you the bigger bands and stuff like that. Sometimes that does work. Like there's a couple of times that's helped us out. Like I think we had, I can't remember who was with who, but we booked a couple of smaller bands for like 200 quid on the lineup. And then I think the same agent had Basement or someone like that the following year, and they offered that to us because their smaller bands had a good time with us. Right. I think agents don't really want to risk their big bands, clients, or whatever you want to call them, to a new festival just in case it goes south. And then the bands obviously blame the agent who've booked them on it.
Yeah.
So, I kind of get it from the agent sort of thing. But then also I've tried to do that before with other agents and it doesn't work. So like you book the smaller bands, you think you're doing the agent a favour and they still don't give you anything. So it's like kind of hard. You got to kind of build a relationship with the agent and see where it's kind of going. there's some agents that are great to us, and then others not so much. So I think that's just a bit more of an industry thing than us specifically. So
yeah, I think that's just all walks of life, isn't it? Some people are nice, some people aren't. So
yeah, and then sometimes I think it's like this year I think like 12 of our bands that we've booked are with the same agency, but we didn't plan that sort of thing. It wasn't like we thought, oh, this band's on so-and-so's roster, we got a relationship, let's book it with that. I think it was just like we did like a list of bands and then just found out it was like the same agent. So it was like kind of easier. Didn't have to go back and forth with so many different people. But
so what kind of criteria do you look for with a band before you book them? I mean, do you ever get any bands contact you directly saying, can we play?
Yeah, we get a lot of that sort of thing, and I kind of feel bad because when we first started, I was very like on the messenger sort of thing, to make sure I reply to everyone and stuff like that. But when you grow as a festival, and it's kind of hard to keep up with the messages and stuff like that. So I try to reply to everyone, but sometimes it's impossible. But criteria-wise, I don't think we really have a criteria. I think it's more bands that like me and the team enjoy sort of thing. So I always put feelers out to the guys who work a festival, see what they think of bands and stuff. And because some of our staff live in London or Bristol and all over the place, so they go to local shows and see bands that I wouldn't see and stuff like that. I try to go to as many shows as possible to check out bands. Yeah, I don't really have a criteria. Normally it's just if I like it. My taste in music's quite broad, so don't really have like, oh, you must be an indie pop band to be playing my festivals.
Yeah.
I just like new quirky sort of stuff. Like it's kind of hard in like that kind of scene to get new interest in music, if that makes sense. Not like everyone plays the same, but I mean, like if you've got a metalcore stage, you don't want just all metalcore. So we try to make it a bit more diverse sort of thing. Not a criteria, I don't think. I wouldn't call it criteria anyway.
So there's nothing a band can do when they email you to kind of like draw you in a bit more to potentially bring them onto the lineup.
I mean, ideally spell my name right would be great to start. I mean, I got a real simple name, so I don't know how people spell it wrong. But always like when they've copied and you can tell they've copied and pasted 12 other people, and they've just got like, "Hello, Dave," and I'm there like, so yeah, I would recommend spelling people's names right. Or even if you're doing messages or emails to people, just do a little bit of research about the festival. I've had like people who are like hip hop artists ask about playing Burn It Down sort of thing. Like they clearly not checked what the festival is and just messaged out of the blue. Not like we wouldn't do hip hop or anything like that, but it was just a bit more like so random. They didn't go, "Oh, hey, I know you're an alternative festival, but have you ever thought about doing this kind of music?" sort of thing. It was just very a blanket message. So I would recommend just doing a little bit of research if you're going to ask to play a festival.
And spell your name right.
Yeah, and spell the name right. Yeah, I mean, I do kind of check out the bands who message us. Like I try to anyway. So even if it's just a random message, I try to check out what's going on. If I was an artist, my suggestion would be don't change who you are, sort of thing. I wouldn't worry about what a promoter or a festival organizer is looking for. Like if you're doing your own thing, just do that, and then organizers will find you at some point. I wouldn't worry about changing your image or anything like that for a gig.
So you've got Burn It Down 2022 coming not long now. It's just is it just over a week, something like that?
It's 3 weeks now, I think. Don't know, it snuck up on me, I think. I think it was like June. I started making like the countdown stuff, like 3 months to go sort of thing. Oh no, it was July I started making that because I started making like 3 months to go stuff. And then I realised it was only 2 months to go. Like I was like scheduling the content and I was like, why can't I see where the 3 months are? And it was because it was like the month before. I was like, oh God. Then the stress kind of comes in. But yeah, 3 weeks time.
How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I feel quite confident, which is weird because normally I'm really stressed out about it. So I'm sure it'll come at some point. I mean, I think this is our fourth or fifth year. So I think it's just, you always stress about what could go wrong sort of thing. But I think once you do it more, every year goes by, you kind of expect the bad things to happen, like bands pulling out, staff ringing in ill, the kit you want can't go or something, or come or something like that. So you're kind of prepared for it. Like it's not. So I think that's why I get less stressed every year. But obviously things do go wrong, which is a bit stressful. But I think if you're prepared for it, it's less stressful.
But there's certain things you can't even plan for, right? Like you can't plan for people being sick.
Yeah, and it's even just like ticket sales. You don't know, like, especially this year has been a bit difficult because I think advance sales are a bit slower, not just for the festival, but for like shows like across the country is a bit like, because obviously with cost of living going up and et cetera, people are trying to save their money or do their money with different things sort of thing. So yeah, it's just a bit scary sometimes because you're not too sure if people are coming or not. It's just like the classic thing, you know, when you're like, oh, who's coming to this? And everyone says yeah, but then only a few people come. So
yeah.
That's a bit stressful. Obviously, every year we'd like to sell out, but it doesn't happen. But yeah.
Do you tend to get like a surge of tickets closer to the day?
Yeah, it's quite a lot. Like the last 4 weeks, 2 weeks is like quite a lot of sales. So that's why I think I'm quietly confident. But then at the back of my head, I'm there like, what happens if it doesn't happen this year? Like, no one might take it at the last minute sort of thing. It's strange because it's like the first, when you announce the early birds and stuff like that, after like this year's festival, we'll announce early birds on the Monday or something like that. After the festival, they will sell quickly. And then it's like a weird 6 months of like, you get 1 or 2 sales a day sort of thing. And it just trickles in. And then at the last 4 weeks, 8 weeks, all the sales start happening again. So it's like, you can like project a certain amount of sales and stuff like that. And like based off other years' data, but it's always the worrying thing of like, what happens if it doesn't happen this year? Hopefully it'll be right.
Yeah, well, I think it's partly is the, like you kind of mentioned, the climate. Like I think people are trying to like see where their finances are nearer to the time, and then that's when they'll like say, "Oh, I've got this."
Yeah, we're in Torquay. It's quite far from quite a lot of people. So if you're coming from London, you've got to pay for a train or petrol, which is more expensive than it usually is. And then if you're staying for the weekend, you need to get a hotel if you're not a local, stuff like that. So it's kind of, that's why we try to keep our ticket prices quite low, because we know quite a lot of people travel down to us. So a lot of planning for people who want to come as well, to be fair. So.
Yeah, not quite as much as you putting it together, but...
No, but I mean, I've tried to book a holiday as well before, so that's quite stressful. I normally get my partner to do that, so...
You do enough planning in life, you don't need more.
Yeah, I do planning for a job, so I can't plan my personal life very well.
Yeah. So when it comes to the day of Burn It Down, what do you do during the day? What's kind of like a day of Burn It Down for you?
It's a bit different to how we first started, because I feel like when we first started, we had very little staff, so I was trying to run around, do everything sort of thing, like doing a bit of stage hand, then running off to do a bit of artist liaison sort of stuff. But now it's a bit more like overseeing everyone. I think we got a strong team, so like every department's got a strong manager or leader or whatever you want to call it. So it kind of gets filtered down now. So I only need to know like important things. It's not so much like I hear about everything that's happening. So it's just making sure every department's running okay. And then if there's an issue that they can't sort out, or they have to go to that area or whatever to sort out. But yeah, it's quite nice now. It's not so much on the day. I kind of get to enjoy myself on the day. So it's not too bad. It's all the pre-build up and afterwards sort of thing. As long as you're organised, on the day you should be okay, to be fair. So
you're going to have a chance to catch some bands this year then?
Yeah, hopefully. I managed to catch a few bands last year. I think last year was the first year that I could kind of relax a little bit more, which was nice. So I'm hoping this year is a bit the same. I'd like more time to go hang with some artists or tour managers that I've seen or haven't seen for a while and stuff like that. So that's nice. Not so much like running around stressed that no one can talk to sort of thing.
Is there anyone in particular this year that you want to see if you get the chance?
That's a hard one. There's a band playing on the Friday called The Throwaway Scene. Quite a small band. They just started sort of thing. And I think I just saw them on Instagram, like an Instagram ad. And I put them in the group chat and I don't think anyone heard of them. But I was there like, I'm just going to book them. I like them. So they're going to check them out. They're early on the Friday. You got Kubrick on the Friday as well. Static Dress, Trash Boat. I've been a massive fan for Trash Boat for years and never been able to book them. So it's the first time. And it's strange being like an organizer / a fan. So it's like part of me wants to be professional, then the other part of me wants to bring my vinyl in to get signed and stuff like that. So it's kind of weird. On the Saturday, you got Wargasm, Cassia, that's all right, Slam Dunk. It's pretty much all of them I want to see, to be honest.
Well, that's good that you actually, you enjoy the bands that you're booking. I think that's a tip number one for when you're booking.
Yeah, I think that if going back to the criteria is that I just have to like your music, I think.
Yeah.
One of those things. I think there's every band I like on the lineup. I think that's a key for someone who's putting on a festival to make sure like you care about it, if that makes sense. Like if you don't like the artist that you're booking, like what's the point of you doing it? Then it becomes more of a cash grab sort of thing, I think.
Yeah, because you want to be passionate about what you're promoting. So
yeah, exactly.
So what's the future for Burn It Down? Are you potentially going to go to 3 days? Are you going to stay in Torquay? What's the plan?
Both of those things, I think. So I think we're gonna try to sell out the 2 days, and then we'll try to do 3 days, and then build that up to sell out, and then we'll try to do a warp tour situation sort of thing that we go to like different cities, and then do like Torquay, London, Glasgow, or something like that. Obviously, not being it's not been planned out or anything, but that's kind of the idea that I wanted to do when I first started.
Well, they did that, didn't they, with Slam Dunk for a few years? They had obviously got Slam Dunk South and North, and they had Midlands at one point, and then they ditched that. But then they did it wasn't the full lineup, it was like smaller lineups, and they did one in Wales, and they did one in Scotland, I think.
Yeah, it's basically that kind of idea. It's not a very original idea, to be honest, but something like that. And then if we can take it to Europe or anything like that, that'd be great. But I mean, I think that's many years down the line. I just kind of want to get to the situation where I can bring like an outrageous headliner down to Torquay. So like if we were doing London Burn It Down and we had like 5,000 cap or something like that, we can put in the contract or something that lineup has to play down in Torquay, which would be crazy because it's
right.
1,000 caps. So something along those lines is pretty much the plan. But yeah, we'll need to sell out 2 days before we go to 3 days, I think. Don't know. That's what I think now. I mean, give me a few months, I'll probably just be like, yeah, let's just do 3 days. But yeah, that's the current plan.
Well, the way it's going at the moment, it's only getting bigger and bigger, so it's not out of the realm of possibility, is it?
Yeah, it seems to be going well. Everything feels all right. Sometimes I've got to pinch myself, not pinch myself sort of thing. It's just like even I hear friends like, I think someone, Caitlin used to do our artwork when we first started. She said that she went on holiday in France or somewhere, and then there was like people who came to Burn It Down in a little holiday complex thing. So it was just like they knew about the festival sort of. And then I think last year was not last year, when we had Basement 2019. It's like people flying from France, and I think we had one person from America come over for it and stuff like that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's when it starts getting like, oh, we can actually do this. Like, it's not so much like a little project. It's like, oh, people actually want to come to this thing. Yeah, that bit's a bit surreal when you see where people travel from and stuff.
But if you're like multinational, then now you've got to consider advertising outside of the UK.
That's what it is. Yeah, it's a bit more work onto that stuff. But yeah, it's just even when I'm if I go to London or something like that, and like people know about Burn It Down, which is really cool, especially for a small festival that started in Torquay.
So what's kind of ideally like future headliners that you'd like to have, or who do you think will become who will grow to that kind of stage?
Well, we currently, without saying too much, we got like an offer for a headliner for next year that has played the festival before, but they've grown into a headliner. So I think they've played once or twice. We've booked them a couple of times for different shows, but they started off being like a small band in a 100-cap venue, and now they're like doing really well. So I think that's a nice thing about the festival as well, having a few bands from previous years come back, but at a bigger stage or higher up on the lineup sort of thing. That's really nice. So yeah, we've got one of those bands coming back without ruining it. Well, it's not confirmed yet, so I can't really ruin it. But, then there's obviously like some bands that I want that are probably not going to happen, but I don't know, people like Don Broco and Sleep Token and the Shikari and stuff like that would be great, but highly doubtful at this stage, I think, unless they're listening and they want to play. I always do a yearly joke with Enter Shikari's manager, because I know I've had him on Facebook randomly, and I think I saw him have a post like he likes Burnley Football Club, so every year I do like a offer for Enter Shikari that I know there's to say no, but then I always offer a Burnley season pass as well.
Right.
I'd entice him, but it never works. So maybe one year. And then there's like I don't know why I did it, but like I tried to offer Alexis on Fire to come play. Knew they would say no, but then
the stars there.
Yeah, then I ended up getting offered Slam Dunk tickets instead, so that worked out for me. So the agent was like, "Yeah, it's not going to happen, but if you want to come to see one of their shows, feel free." And I was like,
"That's cool. You got something out of it."
Exactly, just an email that I knew wasn't going to work. So.
Yeah, and you emailed their name right. You spelt the name right, didn't you?
Yeah, I'll make sure I do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I make that mistake as well, to be fair. I mean, not everyone's perfect, but yeah.
Well, thanks very much for your time, Matt. I really appreciate you talking to me about Burn It Down and being a promoter and all that jazz. So obviously for everyone listening, Burn It Down's happening on September 2nd and 3rd in Torquay. Trashboat and Defavana headlining this year. Some tickets are still on sale to buy online. Before I let you go and enjoy the rest of your day, have you got any final words? Anything you want to say? Anything you want to plug?
Obviously, come to Burn It Down, but just be nice to everyone. I think is my words. Be nice.
Wise words to go out on.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks again, and I'll keep in touch.
All right, cheers, mate. Thank you.
Yeah, dude. Bye.
And that's it. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please consider supporting the podcast in any way that you can. We have a Patreon where you can get access to each episode a week early, along with some other perks, a merch store, or you can leave a review wherever you're listening to this. You can also follow me on social media or subscribe to the newsletter, where I'll send out each episode to you via email, along with regular playlists. All of this can be found at itsnotaphase.co.uk. That's itsnotaphase.co.uk. Thanks again for listening, and remember, it's not a phase, it's a lifestyle.